there's no revelation. And we should also note our own Ian Begley here, for SNY put out a piece in which there's nothing better in the world of media than how Ian words things. And so when Ian is like, I think is something along the lines of like, I would not be surprised if the Knicks knew where they stand on the Giannis front. I read that as like the Knicks know exactly where they stand on the Giannis front.
Yeah.
And my guess is that they feel pretty good about where they stand. So that to me, and if you didn't listen to the low post, basically he was like, I'm not ruling out the possibility that they trade him next summer. Which for Zach to say that, and he is, says like he's talked to people in Milwaukee, and they're, they understand the situation, the whole thing. There's enough people saying enough things that this seems like a real something could happen next summer. Basically, nothing can happen this year, but something can happen next summer, and people are already starting to compile their list of teams. And the reason it's interesting and why I think it is worth touching on now is essentially what Ian wrote, which is like, if you think you have a shot at this guy, and Zach has said as much too, and I don't know what the percentage chance you need to feel like you have to do this, but like, if you think you could get Giannis Antetokounmpo, you kind of need, every decision you make, at the very least, needs to have that, the specter of that in like the background. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on it real quick and what I wanted to ask you, if you were a team that had the assets to trade for him and you did not get an assurance from Giannis that he was going to stay, and let's say he was like, I'm open to the idea, I'll come, because keep in mind at this point, it would be a year left on his contract. Anyone who trades for him next summer, he's then a year away from free agency. He's like, I'll come with an open mind. I just want to win. I'm not giving any guarantees. Would you trade for him? And I'm not even going to add any would you trade this package or that package? Because there's no conversation about the package. You're giving everything, right? To get him, you have to give everything. Would you trade for him if you did not get that assurance, knowing what it would take to get him?
Only reason I hesitate is just to make sure. I'm like, what the percentage is that I'd say yes. But I'm like at 90% yes.
90% yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're at 90% yes, I think the implication is that you feel good about yourself as an organization, right? You feel good enough about yourself as an organization that you could give up whatever is going to take to get him, and that you're going to have enough left over to make him feel like he is still in a situation where he could win championships, because that's the standard. That's what he's looking for, right? If he wasn't looking for that, he wouldn't think about leaving Milwaukee, which maybe he doesn't. And also that like, there's enough good stuff other than that around your organization where that just makes him feel really good, because presumably there are other things he also maybe cares about or is in consideration of. So you would say 90% yes.
I think it's tough to even find a precedent, because this would be a very unique situation, because I don't think there is a precedent. So it's very much like, people are going to point to Kawhi and how he left after a year. And it's just, there's so many other variables involved.
Stop right there. Not comparable.
It's not comparable. Yeah.
They wanted to, Masai Ujiri wanted to blow that up anyway. And DeMar DeRozan's a really nice player. He might make the Hall of Fame someday. No one was giving up much for him. So it was DeRozan and what ended up being a late first round pick, or late lottery
cost. Pick. Yeah. The cost isn't comparable.
The cost was nothing.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
And even like you want to bring up the Paul George, which will be brought up a lot in the next year, because spoiler alert, Oklahoma City has the best package, as that was something else they talked about on the low post. They've done this, but even when they did it with Paul George, it was Oladipo before Oladipo became All NBA third team Oladipo. He was more like, honestly, in terms of like a player value, he was kind of like RJ is now with the Knicks, Yeah. Similar, viewed in a similar way.
He's a role player. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a solid starter, right? He was a solid starter. You figure, okay, these guys going to be able to good to be our third or fourth best player on a decent team. And then Sabonis, but the key thing with Sabonis, it was Sabonis after his rookie year, and nobody had any. Like, you might have been, even if you were high on him, you weren't anywhere near where he's become. So even that package for Paul George with a year left on his deal, is not even in this conversation. I'm not there. I really don't think that there is anything to compare.
The cost is what makes this so unique, because I don't think like Dwight Howard to the Lakers for a year was a comparable, because that was like 4 teams got involved. I know it cost the Lakers. Powell was on that team.
You know what?
It cost him Lamar Odom.
It cost him Bynum. Bynum was the big prize, and obviously Bynum turned into a pumpkin, but they didn't know that at the time, right? So that's the best comp. But keep in mind that trade was in 2000. Was it 12 or
it was off season of 2012, because it led to the off season of 2013 where there was a Dwight sweepstakes, which by all accounts people thought Dwight was going there to be the next great Laker to get great player to get traded to the Lakers and stay there. It took a unique situation of like Kobe hated him from day one, and then Dwight had his surgery, Kobe tore his Achilles, like it was a snowball effect.
So that's not comparable for that reason, which is like they thought they had it in the bag and didn't end up having it in the bag. And it's also not comparable because back then we weren't seeing the packages now that we're seeing. Really the closest comp, this is going to sound maybe a little crazy, closest comp might be Donovan Mitchell to Cleveland, because he had 3 years left on his deal, but like they had to know once they traded for him, like, if this doesn't go great the next 2 years, we're probably going to have to look at moving him after 2 years. Now, it'll be different with Giannis because he's going to have only 1 year left on his deal versus, so like, I don't know. I think at the very least, you can't trade for him unless you feel pretty good that you're going to be maybe not the number one contender for the next year's championship, but like right there, like you're going to be one of the 2 or 3 teams that are going to really be in it, right? That has to be the baseline, right?
But that's the calculation I'm making, is that the Knicks would trade for Giannis and they'd be a contender for a title. And say the doomsday scenario that is why there's a 10% of maybe not that I'm throwing out there. Say he does leave after a year, but it's after a title. That banner flies forever. Like that, the Raptors get to claim the 2019 title forever. And as much as it would be like, the Knicks are in, another pick goes to Milwaukee this year, that banner still flies forever. So it's defensible if you go all in for Giannis. And then if something goes wrong, you're like, you know what? If you're going to go all in for somebody, it's Giannis. I wonder, I guess my question back to you is, because it would be a 1 year thing, and Giannis may have something to do with this too, and how much pressure he may put on Milwaukee, which is like, it would have to be a trade request. But because it's a 1 year thing, does that change the price at all? Does it change the cost at all? That would be, because the other package that we're talking about is the Anthony Davis package, where he had a 1 year left, but the Lakers,
but it's
all but knew everybody knew he was going to.
Yeah, everybody knew. So but that's why I posed the hypothetical the way I did. It assumes he doesn't give an assurance. He won't give an assurance to certain teams. The way that this can get complicated is if there are some teams that he does give not assurances, but like they're going to feel better about their chances, versus other teams where he will not say explicitly, I'm not re-signing there, but he won't give them as much of an assurance as other teams. If you're sitting, and let's just say it, let's put the Knicks in category 1, right? A team where it's like, we feel pretty good about if we get him, he's going to want to stay here, whether it's through back channels or whatever, that they have that assurance. I think what makes it so tough is I still don't know if you're in a position like the Knicks would be in that scenario. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying let's pretend that is what happens. I don't know that you could sit back and be like, well, we're really going to negotiate hard here because we feel like since we have the leg up that Giannis is going to want to resign here, no one else is going to pony up enough to take him from it, which, by the way, is exactly what they did last summer. And look, it may have worked out well. That's Donovan Mitchell. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo. But more to the point, like, I agree with you. I think there's going to be at least one team out there, even if he doesn't give an assurance. I think there's going to be at least one team out there that says, you know what? Fuck it. We have the goods. We feel okay about taking this chance and makes the trade. And what I'm dancing around is like, I think this has a chance to be, if it comes to it, big if, the most fascinating trade sweepstakes. I don't know if I even want to call it that in the history of the league, because you also have teams like the Lakers who, the way their cap situation is, there's a world where they are like, you know what? Well, we don't have a ton of assets, but that's probably the most important thing. But also, we could just open up enough cap space that if Giannis really wants to come here, he could just walk in onto our roster in 2025. Yeah, so like, yeah. So how does that factor in? I find it to be utterly fascinating. You want to just go? I want to go through quickly who are the teams that we think could at least have a real package that would make sense for both sides. And I phrase that just that way because, like, you know, like I'm looking at Boston, right? So like Boston's a very good team. Obviously, they have Jaylen Brown. Like, I'm sure they would love to swap Jaylen Brown for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and even like Jaylen Brown plus a bunch of picks. But like, what does that do for you if you're the Bucks? You know, like Jaylen Brown's a really nice player. Maybe they add it. Maybe they keep around Chris Middleton or whatever. But like, if you're like, he's already kind of on the older side. He's already signed for a ton of money. The picks that you're getting from Boston are not going to be great picks because now you got Tatum and Giannis there, and it's fucking Boston. They're always going to be good. So like, I think, well, we're going to hear about a lot of teams over the coming months and however long that could be in it for Giannis. I really think we might be able to whittle down like the list. Like, obviously the most fascinating one is Oklahoma City. And it's not even about the picks. And I think I've talked about this on this before, but I'll say it again. If anybody has a 4-day weekend with their wife away and wants to kill time, go look up the actual picks that Oklahoma City has from other teams. There's not a lot of, if any, golden tickets there, you know? And this is why I know you wanted to kill me when I was like, over the summer, I was like, yeah, I would swap Emmanuel quickly if I could get back that unprotected Hawks pick, either in 20, I forget what the 2 years are, 20, like the 2027 unprotected Hawks pick. But like, that carries with it the golden ticket possibility. These picks out there that, like, you know, like the Thunder have like picks from the Clippers that everybody loves to talk about. Those picks are protected. And if there is zero possibility that you're getting the first, second, or third pick in the draft or fourth pick in the draft, like, that takes away a lot of the value. Like, you want whatever percentage chance it is, you want the chance of like, oh, this could turn into Jason Tatum, you know, or this could turn into Kyrie Irving, who was picked with a pick that was traded away and was unprotected. Like, you want that possibility. It doesn't always work out. Like, the famous example is the Kings pick, that it was like the golden ticket for years and years and years. That ended up turning into the 11th pick in the draft. It was something special, you know, but like, you want that chance. So I'm ranting and raving, but like, that's for me why I think Oklahoma City is still interesting though, because of the young players. And this is again what they talked about in Low Post, but like, they really do have some, like, what could Chet Holmgren be? What could Josh Giddey be? What could Jalen Williams be? Like, these are all big time possibilities. So
then my counterpoint to the golden ticket that a Hawks pick could be,
I'm just using that as one example. It's an unprotected pick years into the future for an organization that, like, you would not look at them as an organization and be like, oh, they're definitely going to be, you know, great 7 years from now or 5 years from now.
And I'm saying that exact description that you came up with, and it may turn into a question I have for you, is how I think a lot of these GMs think of the Knicks. Here's four unprotected golden tickets, which is why I think you don't need to go trade quickly and mortgage your backup point guard situation for this year. So that way you can get an unprotected Hawks pick. You have 4 golden tickets, which will trump any trade package. Or I ask you the question, have the Knicks upped their reputation enough that their 4 golden tickets aren't as valuable anymore? That the gamble of, you know what, if I have a chance of like 3 OKC picks and Josh Giddey and Jay Will, or can I have 4 Knicks picks and all their swaps for the next 7 years, or whatever the trade package would be? I would always gamble on Knicks stuff rather than anybody else because of the reputation, the Knicks tax, as they call it.
I would too. I think the calculation changes a bit. And again, this is where what Milwaukee knows matters so much. Let's say Milwaukee knows that if they trade him to the Knicks, he is going to re-sign with the Knicks, and there is a likelihood that he is going to want to continue to live in Manhattan and experience the life of being, in a major city, and he is not going to leave. If they know that, then all of a sudden the golden ticket aspect of, it's LOL Knicks, it's a James Dolan owned team, it could go south at any moment. I think that takes a little bit of the bloom off that rose. They may know that, they may not know that. At the time, like that's why this is so complicated. I want to, though. So yes, unprotected future picks from teams, from organizations that don't have a great track record. Like, I do think that's the goal, to accumulate as many of those as possible. But I don't think those are as good as a player you feel like is on a rookie contract that is like, has a good chance of being an all NBA caliber player. Like basically SGA. SGA is the dream. Like if you're looking at what is the best asset that has been traded over the last X number of years in the NBA, I can't call it the Tatum pick, right? Because it was
technically the Tatum pick did get traded. But it's not from the Nets. It's from Boston. It's from Philadelphia. Yeah,
it was from Philadelphia. But whatever. That pick originally was not the third pick in the draft. Did not originally, the first pick in the draft.
That's what I'm trying to say. But they didn't trade. Brooklyn couldn't have had Jason Tatum. The Markelle Fultz pick is what got traded.
So that's the best asset. I think actually, I don't know. What's a better asset, Tatum or SGA?
I'm at the point of SGA, but I also
might be SGA.
Like, you're not wrong if you say Tatum.
Whatever
calculation, yeah.
But the point is that like SGA is right there, and he may have no doubt about that. Like that is the best. Like, so if you could get that, you get that, and then if you can't get that, then you look for as many future unprotected picks as possible, ideally from teams that are not the team that you are trading your 2-time MVP to. So like. Let's finish up with that because I want to move on. The young players that we think would actually be included in a deal. And we try to figure out who are the best ones. Like Maxey, yes, but like I don't see Giannis and Embiid. Do we think that's a possibility? I don't see that as a possibility, right?
No.
What
does Philly owe, by the way?
Well, Philly doesn't have any picks. They have 1 pick. I think they could trade, but I think there's some protection stuff. And Maxey is not the sort of player that I think, like, if you're Milwaukee, you bypass picks just to get Maxey. So let's move aside from him. Cleveland.
Oh, there's the one.
There's an interesting conversation that I don't know.
But the picks then come into play. Like,
so here's the question. And it's a question from Cleveland side. And it's a question from Milwaukee side. Would Cleveland trade Evan Mobley without assurance that Giannis is going to sign past the year that he's there? And then
I see where you're going with this.
Would Milwaukee say, you know what? We're fine with it just being Mobley as the return. We don't need the picks.
Oh, so if this is next summer, they can trade 1. It's only one pick.
So it's
enough
Mobley,
time will pass by. Yeah.
It's Mobley and the 2000. What will that be? The 31?
31.
Yeah, 2031 unprotected pick first. Throw in a 2030 swap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean.
Basically 1 year of Mitchell, Giannis, and
maybe more.
Well, no, Mitchell, Giannis, for 1 year of Mitchell, Giannis, and Garland. Unless you think Garland would have to go on that deal too, because you're only giving up one pick.
Interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fascinating one from both sides.
So
I don't think we've heard the last of. No one said it, to be clear. I'm the one saying it, and I know nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland rose up as like a possibility.
So here's the mental gymnastics I'm doing. I've kind of planted my flag on Giannis's staying island, and this was weeks ago before other reporting came out. And Jeremy and Mensa have been like pointing to the cap sheet and reading all the tea leaves. And like, there's a New York Times article that Giannis did before he went on like this press tour of like, I'm leaving, you know?
Well, he didn't say he's leaving.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's laying out he's putting pressure. And I put it into the ether that I think he's just doing what LeBron did for years. And it's like, listen, I'm keeping my options open. I'm not committing long term. I'm putting pressure on my organization. And I'm also very much still influenced by Miran Fader's book that just talks about Giannis's appreciation. Now, this was 4 years ago, so he might be a different person than he was then. Just his appreciation for the stability of Milwaukee and what he found in a new home. Like, people make jokes about his brothers being on the team.
No, I know.
This is a thing. Like, you go overseas and the Antetokounmpo bros is like a thing, and they're able to just be on the roster and be his buds. And you know, is he going to have that with the Knicks? Is he going to have that elsewhere? Does he still care about that? Now, I am of the belief that the Bucks will try to make 1 to 2 more moves to keep him. So he's a Buck for life. And that some of this might not mean anything. I also recognize that since I put that belief out there, he's now said multiple places, and then other people that are very credible in their reporting have also put out there that we may like what you're reading into to create this conversation. Next summer could be a summer of the Giannis trade, and I think I've gone from like 85%. I think I'm going to be right to it's like a 50-50 toss now.